My name is Shen Qingwan. I used to be a lady from a prestigious family, but now I'm a notorious abandoned wife. After my divorce from Mu Yanji, my best friend Lin Hua helped me pick one of the princess's personal guards, saying she wanted to help me fulfill my wish. In the darkness, he was gentle and considerate, but I later found out that he was the eldest son of the Duke of Dingguo's residence, Lin Hua's older brother General Gu Hanchuan, the pacifier of the north. Fei Yi that night, when the guard's hand rested on my shoulder, I forced myself to stay calm. But alas, that dry, scorching touch made my body tremble like a sifting sieve. His hand paused. Then he gently stroked my head, as if to comfort me. Although I had Lin Hua tell him in advance that the guard was not to speak once he entered the room, seeing his action, I was afraid he had seen through my bluff. Forget it. Forget it. I, Shen Qingwan, have been a little hellion in others' eyes since I was a child. I can't let him look down on me. I threw my arms around his neck. In the pitch-black darkness, I bit his cheek. His body trembled, and he hugged me tightly. His strength was astonishingly great, although he was extremely considerate and gentle. Since it was my first time experiencing carnal matters, I found it very arduous and didn't find any pleasure in this precious night. I looked up at the swaying dim bed canopy, only hoping that I could successfully conceive a child this time. Fei, R, on the day of Gayu, the people outside the capital city released river lanterns. Lin Hua and I hired a painted boat to tour the spring river at night, and we happened to brush past my ex-husband Mu Yanji's boat. The night breeze was cool. A pipa song from Mu Yanji's boat ended. The sound of the dongxiao stopped, and the cheers of those literati and young scholars suddenly burst out. Someone said loudly, "Brother Mu's dongxiao flute is like a spring breeze on the face. Miss Sue's pipa is even more like pearls dropping onto a jade plate. The two of them are a perfect match, bringing out the best in each other, truly an unparalleled sound in this world." Hearing Mu Yanji's name, I felt a stir in my heart and glanced at Lin Hua. She took my hand. I knew she was comforting me and gave a silent smile. Then I heard another person say, "Brother Li, there is something you don't know. If Brother Mu hadn't been forced to marry that Shen family girl, who has no literary talent but still wants to feign refinement, I'm afraid Brother Mu would have already become a happy couple with Miss Sue." I stood rooted to the spot and distinctly heard Mu Yanji's cold voice. "Why bring her up? What a jinx." I abruptly got up, but was held back tightly by Lin Hua. Considering she was pregnant, I didn't want to cause trouble in front of him, so I endured it. The painted boat leisurely sailed far away, and the sounds of laughter and cheerful talk could still be heard coming from it. After running into such a buzzkill, Lin Hua and I both lost our interest in the outing. On the way home, I sat in the carriage, sulking. Lin Hua asked if I was secretly planning something, and I told her to just take good care of her pregnancy and not meddle in other people's business. I took Lin Hua home, sat for a moment, then got up to take my leave. Coming out of the Dingguo ducal mansion, it was already late at night. When passing by the garden, I saw from outside the moon gate Lin Hua's older brother, Gu Hanchuan, sitting alone in the pavilion drinking. The night breeze blew gently. The lantern on the corner of the pavilion swayed unsteadily. The light and shadows flickered, making his face alternate between light and dark, revealing a persistent gloom and arrogance. I remember half a year ago, also in this pavilion, I was talking with Lin Hua about me getting married. He stopped when he passed by, and his expression then was exactly the same as it is now. He sat there completely still, like that pitch-black large rockery in my courtyard, gloomy, cold, and hard. When I was a child and didn't know any better, I frequently misbehaved in front of him, challenging his authority. He repeatedly scolded and punished me, but it was always done lightly. But because of that casino incident, he got really angry and whipped me with a thorny switch. I never dared to provoke him again, and on normal days I'd always hide and walk away whenever I saw him. I stood there silently for a moment, and just as I was about to leave, he suddenly turned his head to look at me. He is a general who has fought on battlefields, watching 6 roads and listening in 8 directions, extremely sharp and alert. His eyes were deep and dark, as if there was a bottomless pit that wanted to suck me in. Here we go again. Here we go again. Every time I make a mistake or embarrass myself, he'll look at me with this stare that makes my whole body tense up. With a smile that didn't reach my eyes, I called out, "Big brother." He nodded, gesturing for me to go over and sit down. I didn't dare to defy him, so I obediently sat in a side seat, as prim and proper as a 7 or 8-year-old schoolchild, in the Duke of Dingguo's residence. I'm not even afraid of the Duke himself. He indifferently took a luli cup from the tray, placed it in front of me, and then picked up the wine pot and poured me some wine. I quickly got up, held the wine cup with both hands, and thanked him repeatedly. He suddenly spoke. "I've heard about what happened tonight." Seeing my confusion, he slowly poured himself a cup of wine and said, "The boatman is my man." But I sat down heavily, raised the wine cup, and threw my head back, pouring the wine down my throat. I knocked the wine cup onto the white jade table. I just felt a scalding pain from my throat all the way into my heart. Big brother. For some reason, I felt drunk just from meeting his gaze. Big brother, if Linhua's junior commandant wronged her, what would you do? Gu Hanchuan pinched a wine glass in his left hand, gently swirling it back and forth, the expression from his clenched jaw like King Yama in the underworld coldly eyeing the Book of Fate. Beat to death with clubs, burn, then bury deep. Hearing him say that, I couldn't help but sigh in my heart. Linhua is so lucky to have a good brother to back her up. So be it. I drained the wine in my cup, stood up and curtsied, and took my leave from Gu Hanchuan. In the night wind, I straightened my back and told myself out loud, "Shen Qingwan, you are no pushover." Fei said after returning from the boat cruise on the Spring River. I gave my personal maid, Queer, 100 taels of silver. Money can make ghosts push grindstones. In less than 2 days, Queer had found out a lot of inside information for me. It turned out that 6 months ago, Mu Yanji wanted to take the musician Su Ning from the music bureau as a concubine. But his parents refused, saying their family was a family of upright scholars, and even a concubine had to be a daughter from a respectable family. He threw a tantrum at his parents, and because his mother said as long as she was from a respectable family, everything else was negotiable, he went ahead and named me. The meaning behind this was simply that if they wouldn't let him marry a musician, he would marry a merchant's daughter. If they wouldn't let him be happy, then no one was going to be happy. My father, as an imperial merchant, was on a mission to the northern snow country, handling foreign trade between the two nations, and had been away from the capital for many years. Having just returned to the capital, he naturally didn't know about the many reasons behind this. There is an old saying, scholars, farmers, artisans, merchants, with merchants being the lowest class. Even though my family were imperial merchants, we couldn't escape being looked down upon by the great scholars and learned men. The head of the Hanlin Academy, Lord Yin, prepared lavish gifts and came to my house personally to propose the marriage. And my father was naturally overjoyed. I was also delighted in my heart. At Linhua's coming-of-age ceremony when she was 15, I once saw Mu Yanji. He was slender and tall, dressed in a celadon long robe, standing straight and tall like a pine in bamboo. That long robe was embroidered with misty green bamboo in an aqua color. It was really beautiful. On our wedding night, he said to me, "You and I are still strangers. Let's just allow time to be our companion. If we can gradually ease into things, it won't be too late to build a real marriage." After that, he just moved into the study by himself. I foolishly thought he had the temperament of a scholar and wanted to get to know me gradually. I never imagined I was a sacrifice in his fight with his family. When I burst into Huayu Lu with over a dozen house guards from my maiden home, Mu Yanji was drinking wine and discussing poetry with a group of scholars. A woman in a smoky blue dress was leaning by his side, holding a scroll in her hand. I stood at the door and sneered. I didn't expect young Master Mu to be here enjoying time with a beauty and just getting to the good part. Mu Yanji's face went red then white. "What are you doing here?" I swaggered into the elegant room. The young scholars were all in an uproar. They probably didn't expect a respectable lady like me would dare to be so bold. Some fool who didn't know his place came over to scold me, and was promptly slapped twice across the face by my retainer. The crisp sound of a slap echoed in the private room, and everyone was instantly scared silent. The music stopped, and the room became completely quiet. Muyanji looked at me, his face ashen, a trace of shame and indignation flashing in his eyes, as well as an undisguisable panic. Shen Qingwan, I'm just here drinking wine and discussing poetry with my teachers and friends. Why are you making such a big scene? Oh my God. He is actually still playing dumb in front of me. I didn't answer, walked straight up to him, and slammed the divorce papers in my hand onto his chest. Sign it. Muyanji took it, bewildered, and after just one glance, his expression changed drastically. Nonsense. I saw he was about to tear it and quickly snatched the divorce papers back. Muyanji tried to snatch it back again, but I retreated 2 steps, and a servant came forward from behind me to block him. Muyanji shouted, I'm your family's son-in-law, don't be insolent. Too bad the servants are from my maiden family. Why would they listen to him? I slapped the divorce papers onto the desk, scaring the woman beside the desk into a shiver. I smiled at her and said, Is your name Su Ning? The woman seemed a bit afraid of me, but she still straightened her back. This humble one is Su Ning. I sighed and touched my index finger to her lips. She remained stiff and unmoving, and I actually felt a little bit of admiration. Muyanji yelled from under the hands of the servants. Don't you hurt her! I pressed my index finger, stained with plum-red lip rouge, onto the divorce agreement, shook it a little, straightened up with a beaming smile and said to Muyanji, Your turn. Muyanji was truly scared. His eyes were full of fear. You lunatic. You're doing this. Does your dad know? Do my mom and dad know? I waved my hand, and Queer came forward carrying a cinnabar inkstone. The servants held down Muyanji's hand. Muyanji screamed even more wildly, but unfortunately the servants were sturdy and burly, and none of his scholar friends dared to step forward to stop them. He was scolding me with his classical jargon. I just found it noisy and looked up at the night sky outside the window. To get a divorce after just half a year of marriage, in the whole wide world, probably only I, Shen Qingwan, could do such an absurd thing. At this very moment, I, this uneducated daughter of a merchant, actually felt like reciting a poem. A moment of a spring night is worth 1,000 in gold. The flowers have a clear fragrance. The moon has a shadow. I don't even know whose poem it is, but I went ahead and recited it out loud. Muyanji looked at me in astonishment, probably finding it hard to believe that I had gone so completely mad. I glanced at him awkwardly, took the divorce papers handed over by the servant, gave them a satisfied look, and tucked them into my bosom. In that case, I won't keep young Master Mew and Miss Siu from spending time together. Phase C. The Mew Manor blew up. My dad blew up. The entire capital city blew up. My dad pointed at my nose and scolded, Hurt the enemy by 1,000 but lose 800 yourself. Shen Qingwan, are you stupid? You'd actually do this kind of lose-lose, money-losing deal. I was lying on a bamboo chair under the grape trellis, watching the dowry that filled the courtyard being carried back, eating sunflower seeds and spitting out the shells. This is what I call cutting my losses in time. I've already wasted half a year's time. I can't waste the rest of my life too. But why did you have to make it so ugly? Who is the ugly one? I sat up straight, pointed outside the wall and cursed. It is that Muyanji who is ugly. It is their Mu family who is ugly. They were immoral and did something bad. I'm the victim. What is there for me to be ashamed of? My dad was so angry, his hands were shaking. Even if you wanted to strike back and get revenge, you shouldn't have dragged yourself into it. Now that you've made such a scene, what family will dare to marry you in the future? It is better if no one wants me, I said. I'll just marry my abacus when Dad is gone. I'll inherit the family business and become the #1 female merchant empress of this dynasty. My dad raised a broom and rushed towards me. If you don't get married, my huge family business will be ruined in your hands. What is the use of me earning so much gold and silver? I leaped up from the steps, dodging as I ran. If Dad wants someone to inherit the family business, you might as well marry another wife and give me a few younger brothers. Then I'll have someone to serve me when I'm old. When Linhua heard me say all this, she almost laughed herself out of breath. You probably can't find another girl like you in the entire capital. I nodded and admitted, I, Shen Qingwan, am one of a kind in this world. I got too cocky and was kicked out by my dad. Luckily, I had a ton of silver and casually bought a residence. From then on, I really put my mind back to making money. Linhua and I got married around the same time. Her husband is a cavalry commandant under her older brother Gu Hanchuan, a young and promising junior military officer who is deeply infatuated with Linhua. Linhua's mother, my eldest auntie, also the Duchess, originally didn't approve of this man, looking down on him for his low status and rank. But Linhua was really into him, and with Gu Hanchuan lobbying on the side, the marriage didn't face too many obstacles. This just goes to show, it is good to have an older brother. Heaven knows how much I envied Linhua. 3 months after my divorce, Linhua gave birth to a big, chubby daughter, nicknamed Zhenju, on her Yaolinin Day celebration. I specially had a small, solid gold abacus made. Unfortunately, my goddaughter had no interest in it at all. For a moment, I suddenly felt the same way as my dad. Is my golden abacus legacy going to be lost? Little Zhenju's eyes were like stars, her lips like red cherries, and when she smiled she had 2 little dimples, a smile that melted my heart. Linhua was a bit chubbier than before, plump and glowing. Before she was stick-thin, but now she had a different kind of charm. I don't know what got into me, but I actually said, "Linhua, I want to have a baby too." Upon hearing this, Linhua's interest was piqued. "You've gotten over it? Thinking of finding another husband?" "No, don't get me wrong. I just want a child. As for the man, forget it. My requirements aren't harsh," I said. "My child's dad has to be good-looking, tall, physically strong, and smart." Linhua said, "Your standards are already very high." I said, "Not high, not high. I'm thinking of my future child." Linhua had been planning for me for a long time. To maintain secrecy, she finally entered the palace, and together with Princess Wanyao, picked a guard who met my conditions and quietly sent him to my room. Fei Wu, when I woke up, the guard had already left. I rolled over and got out of bed, but immediately felt my back and waist ache. Remembering last night's wildness, I couldn't help but feel my face flush and my heart race. I sat on the bed to rest for a moment, and caught sight of a round stool in front of the bed, with a paper package on it. I curiously picked up the paper package and opened it. Inside was osmanthus cake wrapped in the pastry paper from Zhongnan's Sujinji. I have been away from Zhongnan for several years, so being able to taste the flavor of my hometown again instantly put me in a great mood. Choir knocked on the door. I told her to come in and asked her where this came from, but she said she didn't know. Choir grew up with me. She is my little follower who has only ever listened to me and let me fool around. She knows all my secrets, and also understands how much I want a child. These must be pastries from the palace. That guard of the princess is such a thoughtful person. Pa, don't say things like that. Once bitten by a snake, for 10 years one fears a well rope. In this lifetime, I only want children, not men. Eating the osmanthus cake, I couldn't help but praise my own cleverness deep down inside. From the very beginning, I told Linhua, the guard and I do business at night. The candlelight won't shine on our faces, no talking upon entering the room, and we're strangers if we meet again. Once the job is done, I'll reward him handsomely, and everything else is off the table. Thinking of this, I couldn't help but nod repeatedly. But then I thought of something, and tossed the osmanthus cake in my hand into the paper bag. I have to have Linhua warn that guard not to make any more extra moves from now on. I gleefully called for choir, and secretly prepared baby supplies, but 3 days later, my period came. How did it not work out? I rocked the cradle looking at the little baby in the swaddling clothes. Little Pearl, who is over 100 days old. Her cheeks are soft and squishy like a little dough ball. How could it not have worked out? I like little Pearl so much. Linhua's finger fiercely poked my forehead. Besides knowing how to make money, what else do you even know? I asked listlessly. What? Can't you just count the days? I was confused. Count what days? The days for having a baby. Linhua stared at me for a while, suddenly wasn't angry anymore, and even seemed a little happy. She leaned in close to me and said, "It is okay. Once you're feeling better in a few days, I'll arrange it for you then." Arrange it then? But why are you smiling so sneakily? The night before the flower festival, I was feeling much better. Just as I was about to go find Lin Hua, she came looking for me, saying the apricot blossoms on both banks of Pingding Lake were in full bloom, and Princess Wan Yao wanted to take a boat to admire them tomorrow. My mind was filled with nothing but thoughts of having a baby, and I had no interest at all in a lake outing. But Lin Hua said, "Don't you want to see those guards around the princess?" With her prodding, I became interested. Although I didn't know if my guard would be among the entourage this time, I still enthusiastically agreed. I was curious about what he looked like, and even more curious about what my future child would look like. Once I thought of this, I couldn't even close my mouth. Failio, before boarding the boat, everyone had to first wait on the shore for Princess Wan Yao's imperial carriage. When I arrived with choir, a maid from the Duke of Dingguo's residence hurried over to say that they had guests at home, so Lin Hua couldn't come. Just as I was disappointed, I saw a group of young masters and ladies approaching from the distance, dressed in magnificent, bright clothes, chatting and laughing cheerfully. Mu Yanji and Su Ning were also among them. I rolled my eyes and turned my head away, not looking at them. And sure enough, some troublemaker spotted me at a glance. "Brother Mu, look who is over there." "What a jinx. Let's just wait here. No need to get any closer." They were speaking very loudly, but I just treated it like dogs barking and paid it no mind. "Brother Mu, I think your divorce was a good thing. Look at that arrogant and domineering behavior of hers." Kier was so furious she wanted to charge over, but I pulled her back, shook my head at her and said, "A bunch of seemingly refined degenerates are just barking madly over there. We can't lower ourselves to the level of beasts." The people over there must have heard what I said, as one of them shouted, "Exactly, a woman like this who doesn't observe traditional female virtues. Kijuo, no one in the whole capital would dare marry her now, so shameless, and she doesn't even realize it." I couldn't take it anymore and was about to make a move, but then I heard that person let out a miserable scream. I turned my head back and saw someone in the crowd covering their mouth, fresh blood gushing out from between their fingers. Ah, my teeth. Who dares to hit the young master of Minister Zhang's family? Show yourself. A commotion went through the crowd. A cold, gloomy voice came from behind me, speaking loud and clear. "As a man of letters, you speak without virtue and slander someone's innocence. I was letting you off easy by hitting you." It was Gu Hanchuan's voice. I was so scared that I quickly stepped back and turned around, pulled down my rolled-up sleeves, and pretended to look bullied yet well-behaved. Gu Hanchuan leisurely roused himself from not far away. He was dressed in a smoke-purple long gown and walked with a graceful gait, and his scholar's attire couldn't hide his commanding majesty and aura. There were still some who didn't recognize Gu Hanchuan, and they yelled out, "Who are you? How dare you attack and injure someone?" Someone on the side yanked this clueless one down, scolding in a low voice. "This is Duke Dingguo's General Zhenbei Gu Hanchuan. Don't you go looking for death." The young master, covering his mouth, seemed unable to bear this kind of grievance, stammering with a mouthful of blood. "No matter what, you still can't hit me." "Ah," Gu Hanchuan stood in front of me, his presence like that of my guardian. "Everyone who came today are children of officials, yet you actually insulted the emperor's precious daughter in broad daylight. If I don't teach you a lesson on your father's behalf, I'm afraid tomorrow at the morning court session someone will submit a memorial, impeaching the Minister of Rights for not managing his household strictly and for failing to raise his child properly." As soon as these words were out, that kid's face turned ugly. He paused for a moment, then covered his mouth with his sleeve and hurried over to apologize. "It was I who was rude in my words and actions. I hope your excellency will forgive me." I and Kier looked at each other and smiled smugly, but Gu Hanchuan still wouldn't let him off. "Who should you be apologizing to? Do I need to teach you?" That kid quickly bowed to me, all the way down. "It was I who was rude and offended you, miss. Please forgive me, miss." I waved my hand magnanimously and said, all right, hurry up and go get your mouth checked out." After that little interlude, Mu Yanji and his group ran to a spot far away from us to wait. I respectfully walked over to Gu Hanchuan's side and asked, "Big brother, why are you here?" Gu Hanchuan seemed a little unnatural. He lowered his gaze slightly, his eyes lingering on me for a moment, but as if afraid I would notice something, he quickly shifted his gaze to look elsewhere. A faint blush swept across his face, and his Adam's apple bobbed up and down, as if he were swallowing some unspeakable secret. I looked at him strangely, feeling that he was very different from usual today. "Big brother, are you not feeling well?" He gave a light cough, trying to cover up his loss of composure, but his voice held a trace of hard-to-detect nervousness. He clasped his hands behind his back, like a child with a guilty conscience. "There are female relatives at home. I wanted to hide out for some peace and quiet. Linhua said you came to boat on the lake, so I came." He stammered, seeming to want to say something more, but in the end only vaguely said, "To come and see." My heart warmed, and I thought to myself he must be worried I would cause trouble at the banquet. So I smiled gratefully and said, "Thank you for your concern, big brother." Ji Hanchuan gave a barely perceptible nod and turned to look at the lake's surface. It wasn't until this moment that I realized the long robe he was wearing was made of a dense, smoky purple brocade, which looked soft and silky smooth, completely different from the rough armor and cotton linen casual clothes he usually wore. The fabric is so high class. The amber hairpin on his head is so high class. The glazed jade belt buckle on his waist is so high class. Looking at his back for some reason, I felt he was much kinder than usual. That incident was several years ago. Maybe he doesn't hate me so much anymore. I walked to his side and said with a fawning smile, "Big brother, Linhua didn't come. When we get on the boat, can we sit together? Okay?" He suddenly looked at me. His Adam's apple bobbed again. "Not allowed." My heart tightened, wondering if the request had been too much. "You're not allowed to fool around and cause trouble by my side." Ju Hanchuan glanced at me. His gaze seemed to shift away. Although he was saying the same words as before, his tone wasn't as cold and serious as it used to be. My heart landed with a thud. I smiled and nodded repeatedly. "Got it. I'll definitely be well-behaved and not cause trouble." Kira looked at me in disbelief. I motioned for her to be quiet. The princess hadn't arrived yet. Gu Hanchuan kept looking at the scenery on the lake. I snuck a peek at him. His expression was placid. He looked to be in a good mood. I was reminded of my childhood. When he taught me horse riding and archery, he had this very same expression back then. My relationship with him wasn't yet as stiff and distant as it later became. Gu Hanchuan is my distant older cousin, and also kind of my half-master. When I was a kid, I was naughty and mischievous, and in the entire Duke of Dingguo's mansion, he was the only one who could handle me. For some reason, I wanted to get closer to him. So I said, "Big brother, it has been a long time since I've practiced riding and archery. When you have time, why don't you take me along? I really want to go back to those days when I wasn't afraid of you and could just fool around as I pleased. I am the only daughter in my family. I truly regarded Linhua as my older sister, and truly regarded Gu Hanchuan as my older brother." Gu Hanchuan turned to look at me, his gaze not as gloomy as before. He seemed to be thinking hard, then said hesitantly, "Military affairs haven't been too busy lately. If you want to learn, you can just move back to the Duke of Dingguo's residence." "Okay," I agreed readily, feeling as if a small blade of spring grass had just broken through the soil in my heart. I haven't spoken to Big Brother this closely in so many years. It is really nice. But I quickly thought of a terrible problem if I move back to the Duke of Dingguo's residence. How am I supposed to have a baby? Don't tell me I'm supposed to have a guard come to my courtyard in the Duke of Dingguo's residence and have a tryst with me. A bolt of lightning struck my mind. No way, no way. Gu Hanchuan would beat me to death. Just as I was regretting it, I heard him say, "It is better if you don't move back after all. We have a distant relative visiting, who will probably stay for a while, and I'm afraid." He hesitated there, as if he felt he had said something wrong. I quickly said, "I think so too. I'm too mischievous. If I move in, I'll inevitably become a laughingstock for your distant guest. As for practicing riding and archery, I was just saying it offhandedly. Big brother doesn't need to take it seriously." Gu Hanchuan frowned slightly, seemed to want to say something, but just let out an imperceptible sigh. More and more young masters and ladies gathered around. Whether they came early or late, All of them were pointing fingers at me and Gu Hanchuan. General Gu actually came too. What a rare sight. General Gu unexpectedly has a soft side to his tough exterior. His attire today is really handsome. Is that the notoriously feisty Shen Qingwan's? I heard that she was fostered in the residence of Duke Dingguo when she was a child. Weeds growing in a room of orchids can hardly hide their vulgar air. Thorns growing in a forest of jade trees can hardly blend into the elegant surroundings. I took a deep, deep breath, warning myself that my big brother was here and not to cause trouble. As I was trying my best to force a smile, Gu Hanchuan's hand reached toward my ear and plucked off a flower petal. Ignore them. His hand was dry and scorching hot. The pad of his finger brushed across my cheek. My heart suddenly skipped a beat, and my face instantly started to burn. I thought of that guard. Fortunately, Gu Hanchuan didn't notice. He raised his head and lowered his gaze, his arrogant and cold line of sight sweeping over those high-born ladies, and the surroundings immediately fell silent. Princess Wanyao has arrived. When she boarded the boat, I stood to the side, carefully watching the 12 guards following behind her. Every guard was very handsome. I covered my mouth and couldn't help but laugh, and softly asked Gu Hanchuan beside me, "Big brother, which of those guards do you think is the best looking?" I hadn't finished speaking when I found him looking at me coldly. I smiled awkwardly, secretly warning myself not to get carried away just because this big brother was being a little nice. Gu Hanchuan is not Lin Hua, something as rebellious as having a child. I absolutely cannot let him know. The princess boarded the ship, and the young masters and ladies from the various manors also began to board one after another. I heard someone whispering, and when I looked back, I saw Mu Yanji standing among a group of scholars in white. Su Ning wasn't by his side. I don't know where she'd gone. I turned my head to look at him, and he saw me too. The two of us stared coldly at each other across the crowd, and I silently stuck out my little finger and gestured at him. Seeing the anger on his face, I was extremely happy. Suddenly, a big hand wrapped around my shoulder. I involuntarily took a few steps, and was subtly moved to his right side by Gu Hanchuan. I looked up at him. He was looking at me unhappily. I stuck out my tongue and quickly apologized. "Big brother, don't be mad, I'll behave myself." I decided I must be good from now on. Otherwise, if Gu Hanchuan got angry and left, I would lose my backer. Fei Ci at the banquet. The entertainers from the Jiao Fangxi danced and sang for the princess. Su Ning was surprisingly the lead dancer, her movements like drifting wind and swirling snow, the jeweled pendants at her waist swaying gracefully. I knew this woman today was going all out, wanting to earn a reward from the princess. Sure enough, once the dance was over, the princess liked it so much she wanted to give a reward. Mu Yanji quickly stood up to chime in, wanting the princess to help Su Ning be freed from her musician registry. Although Princess Wanyao rarely saw me because of her connection to Lin Hua, she couldn't have avoided hearing the story of us two, so in her heart she was surely on my side. She gave me a casual glance, and I looked back with a faint smile. I trusted her wits. Wanyao smiled and said she needed to ask the Jiao Fangxi's opinion. These dancing girls were brought by the manager of the Jiao Fangxi. The manager was summoned into the hall, and upon hearing the princess wanted to buy someone's freedom, he was just about to kowtow and say something when Wanyao said clearly, "Even for an official's family, there is no reason to take someone by force. Just name a fair price, Saikang." The manager looked up at the princess's expression, understood implicitly, and said, "Miss Su grew up in the Jiao Fangxi since she was a child. Her food, clothing, expenses, and daily training, if all calculated, would be at least 10,000 taels of silver." Upon hearing this, Mu Yanji abruptly stood up. But before he could say anything, he was held back by the friend beside him. Su Ning knelt ramrod straight in the hall, her face ashen and pale as cold jade. I poured a cup of wine with a small smile and said in a low voice to Gu Hanchuan beside me, "Big brother, I want to make a move." Gu Hanchuan seemed to have long expected this, just hummed, and his eyes fixed on the center of the hall, not even sparing me a single glance. I was as happy as if I'd received an imperial edict, tilting my head at Choir. Choir pouted her lips and shook her head. I frowned and shot her a look. She reluctantly took out the exchange ticket. I stamped my seal on it, held it up and waved it. Miss Sue, I've bought it. Before I even finished speaking, the hall was in an uproar. When Choir handed the exchange note to Sai Chung, Muyanji's face turned green. Princess Wanyao looked at me, unable to hold back her laughter. Suning came over and knelt before me. Suning pays her respects to you, madam. I spat out the melon seed shells in my mouth and said, Don't you dare talk nonsense. She is a young lady now. Suning performed the courtesy again, saying, I pay my respects to Miss Shen. I laughed, picked up the round fan, and lightly lifted her chin. Don't mention it, don't mention it. The pleasure boat traveled to the apricot grove and pulled ashore. Princess Wanyao got off the boat, and the young masters and ladies also followed her down. I obediently followed by Gu Hanchuan's side, strolling through the apricot blossom forest. Qiar and Su Ning followed not far behind us. Sunlight passed through the sparse branches and leaves, casting mottled light and shadows. A cool breeze swept by. Apricot blossoms fell, like shattered jade. I got a great beauty by my side, and my mood was extremely good. Under the apricot blossom tree, Gu Hanchuan asked, Why did you help Su Ning shed her musician status? I blinked my eyes, and just as I was about to speak, Muyanji charged over, fuming. Shen Qingwan, since you and I are divorced, we should stay out of each other's way. Why are you being so despicable today? I calmly looked at this dashing young man before me. You really can't judge a book by its cover. Back then, at Lin Hua's coming-of-age ceremony, he was also dressed so elegantly, and I was completely fooled by his getup. I smiled faintly and said, If you have the money, buy it. I definitely won't fight you for it. Muyanji gritted his teeth in anger. You knew full well I couldn't come up with that much money. You deliberately set a trap to ruin my marriage with Su Ning. Muyanji, I'm petite, but my voice is loud and clear. Did you know Su Ning's price before? Did you make thorough plans to redeem Su Ning from the Huaye pavilion? Muyanji paused, then quickly added, That is none of your business. I will of course risk everything for Su Ning. I spat and said, How hilarious. You go on and on about how you truly love Su Ning. Yet you rashly married me just because your parents objected, with no regard for my happiness for the rest of my life. On our wedding night, refusing to consummate our marriage to prove your devotion to Su Ning was one thing. But why did you have to hypocritically claim that we had a long future together? Muyanji was so berated by me that he took a step back. You, my ass. I closed in on him step by step relentlessly. You wander around outside, never returning home all day. Since you admire Su Ning and want to buy her freedom, you should take action. But what about you? You neither plan nor save money, only wanting to rely on your parents to solve the problem. You're also a man who has studied the classics of sages. Wherever you stand, you look like a handsome, jade-like young master. But why are your actions so spineless and irresponsible? A dog of a man like you, disloyal in love, unrighteous in duty, and unfilial to your parents. I must have been blind to have fallen for you. Now you've shamelessly come looking for me, so I'm going to make these things clear to you one by one. If you have even a shred of shame, then fucking get the hell out. I cursed loudly, pressing him with every step. Muyanji retreated step by step, his face drained of all color. Qiar stood in the distance and gave me a thumbs up. Su Ning stood beside her, her eyes brimming with red. A dry, slightly rough, large hand grabbed my wrist. I turned my head. Gu Hanchuan's lips curved slightly. His deep eyes revealed a warm and gentle light, as if the spring sunlight was piercing through the clouds and quietly scattering over me. Ignore him. Big brother will take you home. Feiba, by the time I followed Gu Hanchuan back to the Duke of Dingguo's residence, it was already close to dusk. He took me through a side gate into the garden, followed the covered corridor past the central hall, and into his courtyard. I asked him what relatives had come over. He said it was his paternal aunt, and the 2 children of his maternal cousin from his grandmother's side. Guests were being feasted in the front hall, and the back kitchen had prepared many delicacies. Gu Hanchuan ordered someone to bring over a few dishes, and we set up a table in his study. I didn't eat much on the boat, so I started to wolf everything down once I got home. Gu Hanchuan poured some wine and drank it slowly. I want to drink. But he refused. I saw he seemed to be in a good mood, so I tentatively said, "Big brother, let me have some too, Simon. You let me drink last time." "No." Gu Hanchuan rejected me without the slightest hesitation. I smiled sheepishly and stuffed a piece of pig's head meat into my mouth, muttering in a low voice, "I'm already so old and you're still controlling me." It has nothing. Before Gu Hanchuan finished speaking, he opened his mouth and stared at the food without moving. Even the chopsticks in his hand stopped in midair, as if a petrifying spell had been cast on him. I looked at him, baffled. "What are you thinking about?" He slowly lowered his chopsticks, and instead of answering my question, he started talking about his two relatives. "Technically speaking, they should be your male cousin and female cousin. My male cousin is called Yu Miao, and my female cousin is called Yu Shu." Hearing the name Yu Shu, I was stunned for a moment, then said joyfully, "Isn't Yu Shu your fiancé, big brother? Is she here to marry you?" Gu Hanchuan gave me a strange look, his eyes inexplicably holding a bit of resentment. "Our engagement is called off." "Called off? Why? How come? How come no one told me?" I tore apart a pig's trotter, stuffing the tendon into my mouth as I mumbled, "Does Big Brother have another sweetheart?" Hearing this, Gu Hanchuan looked at me, his gaze deep and gloomy, the corners of his mouth turned down slightly, revealing a trace of bitterness and unwillingness. Yet he tried his best to maintain a calm expression. He only glanced at me before turning his head away, holding his wine cup and swirling it gently, his brows tightly knitted, as if pondering some difficult problem. I suddenly realized perhaps it was that sister who didn't want Big Brother anymore. Thinking of this, I quickly tried to take back my words. Big Brother is a genius of heavenly talent, a god of war descended to earth. The line of girls who want to marry you stretches from the capital city all the way to beyond the pass. Of course, Big Brother should take his time to pick and choose. Right. Today on the boat, when those girls saw you, Big Brother, their eyes were practically sparkling with love. The more I laughed, the uglier Gu Hanchuan's expression became. He, the great general who had always been calm, dignified, majestic, and reserved, naturally couldn't stand me spouting such nonsense. Today he gave me a bit of a pleasant look, and I was floating on cloud 9, truly not knowing my place. I quickly shut my mouth. If I kept on laughing, my butt was going to get spanked again. I put down my chopsticks, wiped my mouth, and said, "Big Brother, I just remembered. I've got people coming over to my place for mahjong tonight, so I'll head back first." Jihu Hanchuan had a cold look on his face, as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself. I was scared he'd scold me for being uncultured, so I quickly grabbed a piece of pig's ear and bolted. After leaving the Duke of Dingguo's residence, the coachman outside asked if I was going home, but I waved him off, planning to walk back myself. I strolled leisurely along Yusiang Avenue in the direction of home. I don't know why Big Brother Gu didn't take me to the front hall for dinner. Although his distant relatives were there, I'm not exactly an outsider. My mother's maternal uncle's older female cousin is the Duchess's paternal aunt's younger female cousin. Speaking of which, I'm also a distant relative of the Duke of Dingguo's residence. What? Am I not presentable or something? Is it because he dislikes my bad reputation, or because he thinks I don't follow the rules, afraid I'll cause embarrassment? The more I thought about it, the more depressed I got. I grew up in Jiangnan before I was 9. My mom died early. My dad was busy with business, and ever since I can remember, I was playing with a bunch of rascals from the neighborhood, right up until I came to the capital at 9. I didn't feel there was anything wrong with my conduct. I just didn't fit in with the high-born ladies of the capital. Luckily, Lin Hua's family is full of soldiers and military commanders, so they're much easier to get along with than the scholarly, pure officials. It is just that Big Brother Gu's actions tonight really made me start to get the wrong idea. As night fell, the lanterns were just being lit, and Yusiang Avenue was exceptionally lively. Among the crowds coming and going on the street, there was no shortage of young masters and ladies. They traveled in groups, chatting and laughing merrily, while I alone was isolated from this prosperity. My dad has many friends, and the news of my divorce had long since spread far and wide. Those former praises and expectations have now all turned into mockery and gossip. A few days ago, a tactless matchmaker came to my house to propose a match. There was a widowed 40-year-old uncle looking to remarry, and an old man who sells antiques looking to take a concubine. My dad gave the matchmaker a good scolding. The matchmaker said, "With your girl's sorry disposition, she still fantasizes about becoming the official matriarch of a noble family in the capital." My dad chased her off. The servants from home told me this when they came to my place to let me know everything was fine. If there is no one suitable, I won't get married. If no one wants me, I want myself. As I was thinking, my thoughts turned to the matter of having children, and I immediately perked up again. By the time I walked home, the second watch drum had just sounded. Queer helped me change my clothes and said she had arranged for Suning to be in the small courtyard in the back garden. After playing all day and then wandering around all evening, I was quite tired and had Queer prepare bathwater for me. The water was very hot. Queer threw a medicinal pouch for calming the nerves and relieving fatigue into the water, and I got drowsy in no time. Just at the moment I was about to slip into the water, two large hands lifted me out of it. Startled, I opened my eyes. It was pitch black all around, the lights were out. I was just about to scream out, but my mouth was covered by a warm hand. A deliberately lowered voice sounded by my ear. "Don't be afraid. It is me." My heart tightened, and I asked in a trembling voice, "Lie, little guard." He answered, in a low voice, his voice seemingly carrying a hint of intimacy. "Weren't we told not to talk?" I realized I was standing stark naked in the bathtub, my heart instantly accelerating, my cheeks burning hot. He ignored my complaints and silently swept me up into his arms. Water splashed up, making a faint sound. My body was instantly overcome with a chill, as if gently brushed by the night wind. Shivering, I shrank into his embrace. His embrace was warm and solid. I pressed myself tightly against him, not daring to look up at him, only able to feel his strong heartbeat and breath. He put me on the bed, and I immediately scrambled up, scooting to the inside of the bed. "I'm tired today, and really sleepy. I almost fell asleep just now. You should go." He still didn't say a word, just got onto the bed, pulled me to his side, and took a bath towel to wipe my body. The me who was an unruly bastard during the day was now so ashamed I wanted to crawl into a crack in the bed. "I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself." I snatched the bath towel, wiped myself haphazardly, shook open the quilt and dove in, leaving only my head sticking out. "I'm really tired. You should go. Come back in a few days." While I was speaking, he had already climbed into my quilt. I told him to get out, but he held me tightly and lay down. Although his movements were gentle, he was very strong, and he was also skilled at using tricks to subdue me. I'd learned some martial arts from my big brother in my early years, but I couldn't use any of it against him. I couldn't even get into a stance against him, as he'd easily grab both my hands, and I couldn't move a muscle. "Don't go away, get off." Panic and helplessness welled up inside me. He suddenly kissed my lips, carrying the sweet, fragrant taste of grain liquor that passed over from between his lips and teeth. I unconsciously licked my lips, and in a daze, I seemed to hear him let out a muffled groan, immediately followed by a fierce, stormy assault for a moment. I was kissed by him until I was dizzy and disoriented. So it turns out this guy only came looking for me because he got horny after drinking. Baijiu all tastes pretty much the same. I only know how to drink, but not how to savor it. Big brother Gu isn't busy at the moment. I'll have to ask him for a pointer or two when I have time. No, that is not right. He has relatives visiting. I should be more tactful and not butt in. Just as my thoughts were in a mess, my waist was lightly pinched by the person on top of me. I couldn't help but shiver. He murmured earnestly in my ear. "Focus." Feijo, when Quayer woke me up, it was already past noon. "Miss, are you all right? Why did you sleep so late?" I rubbed my temples, that absurd scene from last night replaying in my mind. I originally thought the stuff between men and women was really hard, but I didn't expect that last night. At this thought, the area around my heart throbbed and tightened. Miss, did the little guard come over last night? I awkwardly pretended to rub my face. Aya, I'm so hungry, hurry up and get me something to eat. After eating, I went to the backyard to look for Suning. When she saw me, although she was very respectful, there was still wariness and hostility in her eyes. Don't worry. I tossed the musician's registration document from the Jiao Fangxi onto the table. I came to bring this to you. Suning glanced at the document on the table, looking at me in disbelief. Miss, what does this mean? I'm letting you go, of course. Do you even have to ask? Don't tell me you want to stay at my house and freeload? After I said that, I turned and walked away, only to hear a thud behind me. I looked back to see Suning kneeling on the ground, her eyes brimming with tears. Just go when I tell you to. Why do you care so much? I waved my hand and walked straight out of the courtyard. When I investigated the affair between Mu Yanji and Suning before, I found out about Suning's background. 7 years ago, Suning's dad was the prefect in Guangkou Chang'an, was imprisoned for privately misappropriating military rations to provide relief for disaster victims, and his family members were registered as slaves. She was sent to the Jiao Fangxi, her mom hanged herself, and her dad also died in prison. A perfectly good family, for the sake of the people of Yizhou, fell into hell, torn to pieces. When I walked to the courtyard gate, Suning chased after me, knelt by my side, and grabbed my clothes, not letting me go. I ruined the good marriage between you, miss, and young Master Mu before. Why are you repaying my evil with good? I sighed and looked down at her. That is no good match. The kid is incompetent and immoral. It is a good thing I found out early. You heard what I said in the apricot grove that day, to each their own. If you still want to be with him, then go find him. That 10,000 taels of mine wasn't spent for you. I lifted my foot to leave, but she still held on to me tightly. Miss. Her voice was choked with sobs. Suning has no feelings for young Master Mu. It is just that her family faced a great disaster, and she fell into the mud. Unable to save herself, she latched onto others, only wanting to find a chance to leave the musician's registry. It is all Suning's fault, miss. You'd better not be with young Master Mu. I'm begging you. Don't mention him again. I squatted down helplessly. I don't care for someone like him, understand? Suning said hesitantly. But miss, if you do that, I'm afraid it will be hard to find a marriage in the future. I pulled her up and said, Stop your fey worrying and just look after yourself. Hearing this, Suning knelt down again. Miss, for this great kindness, Suning has no way to repay you. From this day on, Suning is willing to be a slave and a servant girl. To serve you, miss, for life. I helplessly pulled her up again. After all, you were once an official's daughter. How can you be my maid? Aya, forget it. Forget it. If you have nowhere to go, you can stay at my place for now. Anyway, there aren't many people in my house. One more mouth to feed is no big deal. Fei Shilinhua took me into the palace to see Princess Wanyao. Wanyao took out a box of silver notes and said, This is what the Jiao Fangxi returned, I said in surprise. What, they went back on their word? Wanyao smiled and said, No, originally, if I had stepped forward they would have just released the person directly. Didn't we put on an act that day, after the show was over? Xicheng returned the banknotes. I smiled and said, He returned them, princess, so you should just take them. If you feel bad about it, you could also just point that guard out for me to see. Lin Hua protested as soon as she heard. Didn't we agree to act like we don't know each other when we meet? Why do you want to see him? I said. Because I'm Lin Hua sat down next to Wanyao and said, Don't say it, don't tell her. Wanyao smiled at me without saying a word. I walked to the window and looked outside. In the courtyard, some guards were standing about scattered, while some others were walking past the wall in a line. I looked at this one, looked at that one. Every one of them looked very sharp. Lin Hua called me back to eat osmanthus cake. Just look at your smitten face. It has only been one night and you've already developed a crush. I pinched a piece of pastry and stuffed it into my mouth. What do you mean once? He was just there the night before last. After I said that, I felt something was off, and looked up at Lin Hua. Her expression turned strange. Wang Yao looked at the two of us and said with a laugh, "Look at this brain of mine. I was the one who told him to go over." As she spoke, she hit Lin Hua once. "Look, you have a guest, and I didn't let you know." Lin Hua stretched her lips into a smile that wasn't a smile. When we passed by Lin Hua's house, I wanted to get off. Lin Hua said, "Aren't you going to meet my cousins who came over?" I said. "Big brother probably doesn't want me to meet those two. I'd better just go home," Lin Hua asked. "My brother doesn't want you to meet them," I said. "Yeah, after we got back from the boat cruise that day, he took me to his courtyard for dinner." Lin Hua thought for a moment and said, "It is probably not that he doesn't want you to meet them, it is that he himself doesn't want to meet them, so he also doesn't want you to meet them." I scratched my head and said, "Are you saying a tongue twister?" Lin Hua said. "The cousin who came is Yu Shu, the one I told you about a few years back, my brother's former fiancée 3 years ago. My brother went to her house to break off the engagement, and Yu Shu was depressed about it for a good while. She has only gotten over it in the last couple of years. Maybe that is why my brother is afraid of hurting her and doesn't want to see her." It dawned on me, and the unpleasantness from the past couple of days suddenly vanished. I thought Big Brother found me unpresentable. How could my brother dislike you? Lin Hua suddenly cut herself off, blinked her eyes and giggled. "He doesn't dislike you." I tilted my head and looked at Lin Hua for a while. I just felt that she was being a bit weird today, since there wasn't any bad blood. I followed Lin Hua back to the Duke of Dingguo's mansion. Actually, I'm the kind of person who really loves to join in on the fun. Although I was mischievous, I was sweet-mouthed and knew how to handle things, so the Duchess had always been very fond of me. After my divorce, she specially called me over, really comforted me, made me lots of delicious snacks, and even gave me a jadeite bracelet. When she saw I'd come to join her guests, she had the back kitchen put together a big feast. Lin Hua told me, Big Brother Yu Miao is very famous in the Longxi region. He has traveled north and south of the Great River. His footsteps have covered the world. He is experienced and profoundly knowledgeable, a talent capable of governing the world. His Majesty issued a special decree summoning him to the capital, appointing him as the Director of Studies of the Imperial Academy and the Grand Tutor of the Crown Prince. Big sister Yu Shu had nothing to do at home, so she happily came along, hoping to experience the splendid scenery of this capital city. They just arrived in the capital city and haven't bought a residence yet, so they are temporarily staying at the residence of Duke Dingguo. Big Brother Yu Miao is gentle and refined, with a composed demeanor. Big sister Yu Shu is dignified and graceful, and approachable. Such in-laws, with a prominent family background and upright family values, are truly an excellent match. I really don't know why Big Brother Gu wanted to break off the engagement with them, but I can't be bothered with other people's business. My own grand undertaking of bearing a son is not yet complete. For some reason, Gu Hanchuan also came. The Duchess said to those two relatives, "Shenner has been very busy these past few days. He just now got some free time today." I exchanged a glance with Lin Hua, and we lowered our heads to snicker. Big Brother Yu Miao can really hold his liquor. This is the first time I've eaten with Big Brother since arriving a few days ago, so I have to toast him a few more times. Gu Hanchuan accepted every toast, draining each cup. Generally speaking, when there are men drinking at a banquet, the meal is bound to take a very long time. I was stuffed to bursting and secretly asked Lin Hua, "Got any plans tonight?" Lin Hua leaned close to me. "You mean the little guard?" I nodded vigorously, but then I saw her raise her head to look at Gu Hanchuan. I turned back and glanced up. Gu Hanchuan was staring at me. His face was a little red, his eyes holding a drunken glisten. "What are you guys talking about?" "Nothing," I quickly explained. "I'm just sleepy from being full and want to go to sleep." Gu Hanchuan glanced sideways at me, with a smile that wasn't a smile, and strangely hummed an N from his nose. In an instant, I felt like he was mocking me. I shuddered, and a cold chill ran straight down my back. I secretly turned to Lin Hua and asked in a low voice, "Did you tell Big Brother about my business?" Lin Hua blinked her eyes. "No, I didn't." She said it so earnestly. I thought about it for a moment and believed her. She wouldn't tell Gu Hanchuan, otherwise Gu Hanchuan would definitely beat the two of us to death. Yushu suddenly said to me, "If you're sleepy, go take a nap. I heard from Xiaomei that you had a courtyard in the residence before, and the serving maids and old women haven't been dismissed either." I smiled. And just as I was about to say, "It is better if I go home," Gu Hanchuan cut in before me saying, "Qingwan has her own residence. It is just at the west end of Yuxiang Avenue, not far." I went home, and as I was getting ready for bed, I thought of the little guard. I felt it was necessary to discuss this with Lin Hua. We can't let him come over so brazenly. I'm the house. The initiative should be in my hands. Just as I thought of this, the candlelight on the table went out. I rolled over and climbed out from under the covers, and just as I was about to scold him, I was embraced by a cool body. I pushed him away, but he leaned in again, his breath thick with the smell of alcohol. "Hey, you punk, this is way too unprofessional, isn't it? You've come a total of 3 times, and you were drunk on the job for 2 of them." Fei Shi Big Brother was ordered to escort the envoy mission out of Yumen Pass, and the little guard went along too. I asked Lin Hua in alarm. "Why does the princess's guard have to go along?" Lin Hua blinked her eyes. He knows Persian." I was very scared and asked, "He won't tell Big Brother about our shameful affair, will he?" Lin Hua yelled. "How could he? Does he have a death wish? If my brother finds out, he'll skin him alive." I was so scared I nearly peed my pants. I felt I had done something wrong. I felt that paper can't contain a fire. I'm not afraid of my dad, but I'm so afraid of Big Brother. The moment I thought of him raising a sword to kill my pregnant self and the little guard, I couldn't help but shudder. I've been too reckless. Once I get pregnant, I'll flee back to Jiangnan on the fastest horse soon. It was the end of the month. I had made a tour of all the family shops, and when I walked out of Hanyanjai, it was still early. The setting sun, like a duck egg yolk, hung in the western sky, and the entire Yuxiang Avenue was enveloped in orange. Choir waved her hand in front of my eyes. "Miss, what are you thinking about? Life is short, like the morning dew." I went home and dolled myself up, then went out with Su Ning and Choir. Nanfeng House was brightly lit, as if it were daytime. The young male courtesans from Jiangnan stood before the pavilion, softly welcoming and seeing off guests, their every gesture revealing a unique flirtatious charm. The 3 of us got off the carriage, and immediately a sharp-eyed young courtesan came over to greet us, leading us into the inner hall with a deferential smile and lowered eyes. The building was abuzz with voices, the scents of wine and cosmetics intertwined, and joyous songs and laughter rose and fell one after another. I picked a private room and ordered 4 male courtesans. "Su Ning, today your big sis is taking you out to have some fun." Su Ning was used to scenes of sensual pleasure and romance, but this was the first time he was the patron. Queer kept hiding next to me when the young master poured her a drink. She nearly buried her head in my chest. I raised my wine cup to drink, but Queer stopped me at once. "You can't drink that." I didn't understand why. Queer leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Drinking is bad for the future, little Shen." It dawned on me, and I put down my wine cup with a giggle. A thought flashed through my mind, and my heart skipped a beat. It seemed Gu Hanchuan had also told me not to drink. How did he put it back then? No way. He couldn't possibly know what shady business I'm up to. The door to the private room was suddenly pushed open, and Mu Yanji stood at the doorway, his expression slightly awkward and flustered. What the hell? Even if he knew I was here, there was no need to chase me here to start a fight, right? I looked at Su Ning, and Su Ning was also looking at me. Mu Yanji walked in. First, nodded to Su Ning, then looked at me. "Qingwan, the day before yesterday I went to your residence to look for you, but the butler said you had moved out." I was leaning against the bank, opening my mouth towards the little young master beside me. The young gentleman, quite perceptive, scooped up a spoonful of durian and stuffed it into my mouth. "What are you looking for me for?" Mianji looked at Su Ning and Choir. I laughed and said, "They're all my people. If you have something to say it quick. If you have a fart, let it loose quick." Muyanji showed an expression of being very angry but not daring to be angry. Su Ning lowered her head, quietly drinking tea. Choir stared at him, watching the fun and not minding if it got bigger. I chuckled and ate durian. Muyanji held it in the end and stepped forward to say, "Qingwan, the words you scolded me with that day." I went back and pondered for a long time and felt deeply ashamed. I know well that I had many shortcomings in the past, but I sincerely hope we can sit down again and have a good talk. I wonder what you think. I laughed out loud 3 times, straightened up, slammed the table and said, "Muyanji, you've really made me see you in a new light." Hearing this, Muyanji looked pleased and was just about to step forward. I quickly stopped him. "Hey," I stretched out my arm and pointed at him. "Don't you come over here," Muyanji said. "What is the meaning of this? What is the meaning of this?" I slammed the table again and sat back down. "I'm being sarcastic, can't you tell?" Muyanji was both shocked and furious. You. Every time we argue, it is always you. Besides you. Can't you say anything else? I guess I've finally seen what it means to be at a loss for words when you're in the wrong. I don't wait for his reply, wave my hand and continue. Forget it. I really can't stand you pedantic scholars. You came to find me because you want to get back together with me, right? Muyanji's face turns pale, then red, then green. So colorful, it is quite a sight. We were a young couple, we shouldn't hold grudges overnight. You've been angry for a while now. Forgive and forget. A couple for one day means 100 days of grace. I interrupt him and say to Suning with a smile, "Listen to what he is saying. He wants to persuade me to go back. Then the 2 of us would be one wife and one concubine, and he would get to enjoy the blessing of having both." Suning gives a faint smile and says nothing. Muyanji, having his true intentions exposed by me, becomes angry from embarrassment. "Shen Qingwan, how can you twist my good intentions like this?" "Thanks for your good intentions. I don't need them, kid. Stop your wishful daydreaming, quickly turn around, and get the hell out." Veins bulge on Muyanji's face. He glares at me, and his voice becomes sharp and piercing. "Shen Qingwan, don't go too far. You're just the daughter of some grubby merchant, with a notorious reputation now. If you refuse to get back with me, just wait until you marry some street peddler." I jump up and shout, "Kier, close the door, Suning, get to the side. Little masters, 10 taels for a punch, 1 ingot for a kick." A bunch of us were beating up Muyanji, and just as we were really getting into it, a servant boy from Linhua's family suddenly burst in. "Cousin miss, this is bad. The eldest young master has brought some men and is heading for Nanfeng House." I immediately stopped my hand and, panting heavily, asked, "Isn't Big Brother at Yumen Pass?" The young servant said urgently. "The eldest young master came home today. Second young miss told you to run." I looked at the messy room. Muyanji was lying on the floor, bruised and swollen. Kier and Suning stood with their hands on their hips, their hair disheveled. The young master's clothes were in disarray from halfway up the countryside road. I opened the door and ran right out. Clinging to the railing, I saw a group of elite soldiers in armor and holding swords burst into the first floor hall, and I hurriedly retreated. Like an ant on a hot pan, I paced around the room a few times and decided to escape by jumping off the building. Although I knew some half-assed kung fu and had climbed trees and jumped over walls as a kid, I had never jumped off a building before. Kier and Suning came up with a plan for me. They had the young masters take off their clothes and tie them together to lower me from the second-floor window to the back of the building. I was so desperate at this point. I wasn't afraid of anything. I tightly gripped the thin gauze clothes and carefully stepped out from the windowsill. Qiar, Suning, and the 4 young masters watched me nervously from the window, and they worked together to lower me down. Just as I was about to land, the clothes couldn't bear the weight and ripped open. I lost my balance and fell heavily to the ground. I twisted my ankle, the pain making me grimace. Just as I was struggling to get up, a burst of rapid hoofbeats was already close at hand. I looked up and saw Gu Hanchuan riding on a tall, large horse, a suit of dark red battle armor shining with a cold gleam in the sunlight. His face was icy, as if covered with a layer of frost. He glared at me, then looked up to glare at the window. Quier, Su Ning, and the 4 young masters fawningly waved and greeted him. Ignoring the pain in my foot, I scrambled up and ran towards the deep end of the alley. The sound of hoofbeats came from behind me, and somehow I was lifted into the air. When I came to my senses, I was already lying prone on the horse's back. Yuxiang Avenue was a main thoroughfare, extremely spacious. Gu Hanchuan, on horseback with me captured, paraded ostentatiously down Yuxiang Avenue. I was scared to death and shouted to the vendors nearby. "Help! Quick! Go report to the officials! General Gu is going to kill someone." But they all seemed to be watching it like it was a joke, pointing their fingers at me. "I'll remember you. You bunch of guys who'd stand by and watch someone die. I'm going to buy this whole street, and then kick you all out of the city to reclaim wasteland." They laughed even harder. Gu Hanchuan sped up. The horse started to gallop, and we arrived at the gate of the Duke of Dingguo's residence. Gu Hanchuan got off the horse, and I took the chance to slide off its back, trying to go around to the other side from under its belly. But Gu Hanchuan snatched me up. He threw me over his shoulder and headed straight into the residence. I couldn't care about my dignity yelling at a passing servant. "Your eldest young master is going to beat me to death. Quick, get the eldest auntie to save me." But no one dared to do anything. Every single one of them pretended not to hear. My head was hanging down, swaying back and forth, and I remembered the year I was 13. He had carried me back from Yujing Pavilion just like this too. Gu Hanchuan brought me to the courtyard I used to live in. I was put on the bed by him, landing flat on my back. I scrambled up, slid to the floor and hugged his thigh. "Big brother." I hugged him tightly, looking up at him, trying my best to look especially pitiful. "Big brother, I was wrong, please don't hit me." Gu Hanchuan looked down and stared at me, his gaze like a sharp sword about to pierce a hole in me. "Don't be angry. Don't be angry. I was wrong. I'll never dare to do it again." "Let go," he said helplessly. "Doesn't your foot hurt?" At his reminder, I immediately felt a burning pain in my ankle. "Don't hit me." He squatted down, picked me up, and put me on the bed. "I'll go get some safflower oil." I let go. He walked to the outer room. I heard the sound of a drawer being pulled. He must be looking for the safflower oil. "It is in the second drawer from the far left." I craned my head to look, but couldn't see him. I remembered that time he used family discipline to beat me, and I couldn't help but shiver. Gu Hanchuan came back with the safflower oil, took off my shoes, pulled off my silk socks, applied the medicine to my ankle, and then started rubbing it with his palm. His hand was rough and scorching hot, his knuckles well-defined. I froze for a moment. The little guard's hands had calluses too. Soldiers often handle weapons. They must all be like this. Gu Hanchuan suddenly asked. "What did you do wrong?" I quickly collected myself and answered, "I shouldn't have gone drinking with girls, shouldn't have hit Mu Yanji, shouldn't have jumped off the building, and shouldn't have run away when I saw Big Brother." "You seem to know everything, don't you? So many shouldn'ts yet. You still did them all, didn't you? When will you ever listen just a little bit? I know I was wrong. Don't be mad. Don't be mad. Okay?" I pulled on his sleeve, swaying as I pleaded for quite a while, before he finally sighed and said, "Let go of me. I won't." I don't know where I got the courage, but seeing that he was falling for my whiny act, I pushed it further. "I'll only let you go when you're not angry anymore. Be good." Gu Hanchuan was trying his best to endure something. "I have to go to the palace. I have things to do." Hearing those 2 words, "be good," goosebumps broke out all over me. I used all my willpower not to let go, but seeing that he didn't seem to be bluffing me, I had no choice but to slowly let go. He helped me to the bed to lie down, turned and walked to the door, and said with his back to me, "You're not allowed to go anywhere before I get back." I nodded vigorously, thinking to myself what rotten luck I've had. Feishar Gu Hanchuan had just left when Lin Hua snuck over. As soon as she entered, she dropped a huge bombshell. "The Emperor is going to grant Princess Wanyao in marriage to my brother." I was stunned, speechless for a moment, then said with pleasant surprise, "That is great." The disappointment and dejection in Lin Hua's eyes were unconcealed. She plopped down next to me and said, "You're willing for my brother to marry Wanyao. Am I saying Wanyao isn't good?" She is a princess, of royal blood. Besides, Wan Yao and I are good sisters, so we'll be one family from now on. Lin Hua looked a little angry, and she said gloomily, but my brother doesn't want to marry her, and Wan Yao doesn't want to marry him either. Why wouldn't the princess want to marry him? Big brother is so capable, handsome and dashing, like a god of war descended to earth. He is tall, good-looking and smart. His family is powerful and wealthy, and my eldest maternal aunt is nice and not fussy. With such a good husband, such a good mother-in-law, and such a good match, why wouldn't Wan Yao like it? Lin Hua looked at me strangely and said, "My brother is such a great guy, why don't you marry him?" Huh? I scratched my head in surprise. Why are you dragging me into this out of nowhere? Lin Hua sighed heavily. You just asked me why the princess doesn't like my big brother when he is so great. So now I'm asking you. My big brother is so great. Why don't you like him? I said. It was like a little bee got into my head, buzzing away. I do like him. Lin Hua was relentless, pressing me. Since you like him, why not marry him? I stuttered awkwardly. Why should I marry him? It is not like Big Brother said he wants to marry me. Then what if he did want to marry you? I opened my mouth, then swallowed. No, stop trying to confuse me. My head's a mess. We were talking about the princess. Why are you dragging me into this? Lin Hua put on a stern face. I don't want Wan Yao to be my sister-in-law, I want you to be. A whole swarm of little bees instantly burrowed into my head. I grabbed Lin Hua's arms, trying my best to stay calm. Can you be normal? Your big brother is your brother, but he is my brother too. Lin Hua seemed possessed. No, he is not your brother. You're not even related within the 5 degrees of mourning. I pulled back a little, looking carefully at her face, which was as hard as a brick. Now you're being distant. After all, our big brother watched me grow up. Besides, when I was little, I started to break it down for her. I moved into your house when I was 9. I told you I wanted to marry your older brother, and you said your future sister-in-law would be virtuous and gentle, and that your brother would never want a wild girl like me. You were the one who said that, right? Lin Hua got anxious as soon as she heard. Wasn't I just a kid back then? How can you hold a grudge for so long? I patted her shoulder and patiently comforted her. I'm not holding a grudge, I just know my own limits. Big Brother is a god of war descended to earth. And I'm just someone who flicks abacus beads. There is no way it would ever be my turn, Lin Hua said huffily. Anyway, my big brother went to the palace to find the emperor. Said he won't marry Wan Yao. He wants to marry you. I burst out laughing and said, no way. Even if I can't get married off in the future, Big Brother doesn't need to make such a huge sacrifice for me, right? Lin Hua looked at me like I was an idiot for a moment, and said, I'm not telling you anymore. Wait for Big Brother to come back and let him tell you himself. When Lin Hua finished speaking and flicked her sleeve to leave, I was shocked to realize that what she said was true. I quickly grabbed her and said, how is this possible? Has Big Brother gone crazy? Lin Hua nodded heavily. Yes, he has been crazy for a long time. I suddenly realized the seriousness of the situation and grabbed Lin Hua's arms hard, saying, it is not like you don't know my business. I'm not a virgin anymore. I can't marry Big Brother. I can't ruin him. Hurry up and go stop him. Lin Hua fiercely broke free from my hands. Can you stop being so stupid? You're just... I was stunned for a moment, and quickly said, yes, I'm not a good person at all. I'm not good enough for Big Brother. You should hurry and pull him back. Lin Hua's head was swaying back and forth as I shook her. She was at her wit's end, and said with a sigh, I can't make you understand. I'm not dealing with this anymore. I'm going back to see the kids. No, don't. I'm in a crisis right now. How can you just abandon me? I shouted, grabbing her and not letting go. But in the end, she still pried my hands away and ran off. This disloyal woman, leaving me all alone to face the lash of fate. My mind was a complete blank. I couldn't think. I just felt like the sky was about to fall. After quite a while, I finally realized I had to run away quickly. I walked to the courtyard gate, opened it, and saw 4 guards. I let out a couple of awkward laughs and then retreated back. Enduring the pain in my foot, I climbed up the rockery, wanting to flip over the wall to get out. But there were 4 guards standing outside the wall too. There was nothing else I could do, so I had them bring Choir over. I put on Choir's clothes, pretending to be her, and even said at the doorway, "Miss, I'm leaving." But I was still found out. I couldn't escape. I ate dinner in the courtyard too. The guards said that without Big Brother's orders, they wouldn't dare let me out. But that didn't stop them from letting Yushu in. Just as I was gnawing on a chicken wing and worrying about the rest of my life, Yushu came in. She said she found out that Big Brother had locked me up and came over to check on me. I quickly explained to her, telling her that she must not believe those rumors about Big Brother wanting to marry me. She said those weren't rumors. They're true. I said this isn't my fault. I didn't do anything. She asked me if I didn't want to marry Big Brother. I said of course not. She frowned and asked me, "Big Brother Gu is so nice. Why don't you want to marry him?" Her tone sounded off to me, so I asked her, "Aren't you here to be the vicious second female lead?" Yushu said angrily, "I really don't know why Big Brother Gu would like a blockhead like you." After saying that, she left. I think they're all crazy. Good heavens. Am I the only normal person in this whole world? When I was little, I really liked Big Brother. The day I first entered the Duke of Dingguo's residence, floating catkins filled the entire capital. Gu Hanchuan was a youth then, practicing his sword in the courtyard, wearing a sky-blue dancing robe. He leaped and twirled over the pond, graceful like a spring mountain waterfall, his sword thrusting into the sky full of white catkins, his brocade robes like dazzling snow, his complexion like jade, and in the sweep of his gaze, he was peerlessly elegant. My playmates in Jiangyan were all little rascals with mud smeared on their faces. How could I have ever seen such a fairy like Big Brother? I was staring wide-eyed. When a kid likes someone, they'll do everything they can to make that person hate them. I'd shoot his window with a slingshot, draw a tortoise on his paper, stuff mud into his shoes, put a big dung beetle's dung ball in his brocade box on his birthday, perch in a tree waiting for him to pass by and jump down to intentionally ride on his neck, sing monkey opera under his window at the second watch, sneak into his room at the third watch to summon his great soul. Sometimes when I went too far he would punish me, but he never got annoyed. Every time I bothered him at night, he would have his attendant Lin Sheng make the bed for me and let me sleep in his outer room. I would often call out to him at night, "Big Brother, are you asleep?" He would softly reply to me, "Asleep." I was 9 that year. Lin Hua liked embroidery, painting, and playing the zither, but I liked horse riding, archery, and practicing martial arts. Ever since I entered the residence of Duke Dingguo, I've been following Gu Hanchuan and learning the stuff that boys like. He is a meticulous teacher, and I'm a hard-working and serious student. I watch him and the soldiers play kuju on the training grounds, and when they get tired from playing, I hand him water. I squat at the edge of the training grounds eating melon seeds and spitting out the shells. Over there is a young master from some official's family, about the same age as me. He asked me what my relationship with Big Brother was, and I said he is my eldest male cousin. He asked me where I'm from. I said Jiangyan. He said, "Oh, no wonder you're so short. So skinny, so fair, and so plump and dewy." He patted my head. I looked up at him and said with a smile, "You're the one who is short. Your whole family is short," he said. "Are you betrothed?" I said. "My dad hasn't mentioned it," he said. "Then I'll go home and have my family go to your house to propose marriage," I said. "Sure, how much do you plan to give for the bride price?" "I don't want jewelry, just exchange it for gold for me." He looked up, glanced behind me, and immediately stood up, like he'd seen a ghost. I stood up too. Big Brother was standing behind me, his face as cold as Bai Wucheng. Big Brother said we were still just kids, not allowed to talk about getting married. The kid with me got scared and ran off. That was the first time I'd seen such a terrifying side of Big Brother. He wouldn't let me go play at the training grounds anymore, saying it is full of men. And since I've grown up, it is not appropriate for me to hang around with them. One moment he says I'm young, the next he says I'm old. I feel like what he says is a bit unreliable. That year I was 12 years old for a while. Eldest brother was always very serious. I felt like something had happened to him. I didn't know what it was. only that the entire Duke Dingwo's mansion was selling things. I figured we were probably short on money. At that time, my dad was beyond the pass, and the family's business was handed over to Uncle Yian. I went to him and told him to give me all the money he could take out. Uncle Yian said that a large flow of funds could easily alert the authorities, and would also make our powerful rivals in the market suspicious, and even allow them to seize the opportunity to attack our family's business. I couldn't take money from the accounts, so I found Du Linfeng, the young master of an underground casino, wanting to use gambling to launder the money into the open. His dad and my dad are in the same business world, part rivals, part friends. His dad once proposed a marriage to my family, wanting me to be his daughter-in-law, but my dad didn't agree. The gambling match was arranged beforehand, but I didn't expect Du Linfeng to screw me over, wanting to make a bet on stripping in front of everyone. Even though I knew the final outcome would definitely be me winning, he would also make me win in a way that would ruin my reputation. I had no other choice, so I secretly sent someone to quickly find my big brother to come save me. When Gu Hanchuan arrived at the casino with his troops, I was just about to take off my middle garment. He raided the casino, turning it upside down and smashed it to bits. He captured me and took me home and hit my butt with his family's ancestral thorny switch. As I was screaming my head off in fear, I saw his face, as grim and sinister as Yama, the king of hell. I was sure he hated me. I was sure he wanted to beat me to death. I stopped screaming at once. I lowered my head, clenched my teeth tightly, covered my face with my hands, and lay prone on the long bench. I didn't dare to look at him again, and I didn't want to look at him again either. That kind of look from him, seeing it once in this lifetime, is more than enough. He only hit me once, threw down the gold bar and left. Uncle Yian picked me up and took me home. I moved out, and also took choir with me. Later, I bribed a junior manager who worked for Uncle Yian, and only then did I find out that the army pay had been misappropriated. Gu Hanchuan didn't report it, but instead came home to secretly raise the money. After all the hiding, it still couldn't be kept a secret. Suning's dad was thrown into the great prison, and until his death, he never revealed that Gu Hanchuan was guilty of harboring him. Even so, Gu Hanchuan was still punished by being sent to the borderlands to eat dirt. I lay on my stomach in bed for 3 days. By the time I could walk again, he had already reached Chaku. I was 13 that year. On New Year's Eve, I went to the Duke of Dingguo's residence to celebrate the new year and saw Gu Hanchuan. 4 years had passed since the time he hit me. He quietly stood at the main gate of Duke Dingguo's mansion, seemingly waiting for someone. Though it was evening, the sky was already dark. The large red lanterns swayed gently in the cold wind, and snowflakes glittering with a crimson glow quietly fell all over him. Black robes and a jade belt, a purplish-red fox fur cloak. Though still imposingly noble, he was deep and gloomy, his gentle and warm aura completely lost, no longer resembling the young man he was when they first met. I got off the carriage thinking about the viciousness when he hit me, and no longer dared to run over and pull his sleeve like I used to. I stayed far away from him, greeting him with a curtsy in a very proper manner, like a well-bred young lady. He turned around without a word, walked aside to mount his horse, gave a tug on the reins, and rode into the snowy night. I kept watching him, watching his figure recede bit by bit in the heavy snow of the dim dusk, gradually disappearing. The New Year's Eve dinner went on very late, and he still hadn't come back by the time I left the Duke Dingguo's residence. Eldest auntie said he went to the military camp outside the city to celebrate the new year with the soldiers. At that time, I thought he'd probably never talk to me again in his life. During the first lunar month, I heard that Du Linfeng went to a brothel for drinks, fought with someone over a girl, and got his leg broken. That year, I was 17, and had just gotten engaged to Mu Yanji. I fell asleep leaning against the headboard. It was as if I'd had a long, grand dream. In my daze, a hand touched my face. I was instantly startled awake, and found my face was already covered in tears. A familiar action, a familiar scent I vaguely sensed in my heart that I had been overlooking something all along. It was a secret I didn't dare to think about, didn't dare to guess at, and didn't dare to admit. Trembling, I pushed his hand away. "You, who are you?" He paused for a moment this time. He didn't change his voice. This time he used his own voice. I pushed him away then. You, hurry and leave. How could you come to the Duke of Dinggua's mansion to do something sordid with me? My brother. If my eldest brother finds out, he'll beat you to death. I can't know who he is. I can't admit who he is. I don't know anything. I must pretend to know nothing. In my panic, he leaned in closer again. I'm not afraid. I miss you. I desperately pushed him away, screaming hoarsely. Go away, just go away. I don't want to see you again. I never want to see you ever again. He seemed to feel guilty, and just wrapped his arms firmly around me. Qingwan, did you miss me? All this time I was gone. Did you miss me? My hands pushed hard against his chest to maintain the only small bit of distance between us, but the solid fortress in my heart was, little by little, crumbling and shattering. This is too much. I lowered my head, clenching my jaw tightly, tears uselessly streaming down pitter-patter. This is too much. How could you all mess with me like this? He softly called my nickname in a low voice. Wan, don't call me that. I pushed him hard. I'm angry. I'm really angry. He seemed afraid I would get hurt, and loosened his arms that were wrapped around me. I took the chance to jump off the bed and run, but he grabbed me from behind. You calm down. Let's talk. I don't want to talk. I want to go home. I flailed with my hands and feet, kicking wildly, like a big ladybug flipped on its back. In the darkness, a low shout sounded by my ear. Shen Qingwan! I immediately didn't dare to move. He flipped me over. I didn't dare to look at him, and just kept burying my head down. He wrapped one arm around my waist, and with the other, he lifted my chin. If you don't like Gu Hanchuan, I can be your little guard for a lifetime. I don't want anyone. I hate you. My face crumpled up. I shut my eyes tight, but tears still kept streaming out. He was stunned for a moment, then slowly let go of his hands. I quickly ran to the door and opened it. Go, get out. He slowly got up and walked out from the darkness, step by step. The moonlight shone on his face. The corners of his eyes were red, and they were shimmering with tears. I'd never seen his eyes get red before, never seen him so sad. It was as if the softest spot in my heart was being tugged at. He walked over to me, looked down at me, the expression on his face like an abandoned little animal, pitiful and helpless. I didn't dare to look at him and lowered my head. I'm the victim here. Okay, how did it end up making me look like the perpetrator? Gu Hanchuan left, but the guards outside my courtyard increased. He didn't come looking for me again, but I would often wake up in the middle of the night and sit dazedly until dawn. I got sick, nausea, vomiting, plus a fever. Linhua came to visit and said I was pregnant. I was immediately scared half to death. She leaned by my bedside, shaking her head and mocking me. Isn't this what you wanted? I was on the verge of tears, shaking my head in denial. No, I never thought my child would be big brothers. The Duchess summoned an imperial physician for me, and the imperial physician said I was emotionally distressed, ate too much, and had indigestion. I felt that I was clearly eating less than before, but Linhua said it was because I'd just been lying around every day since I got upset. That day, eat then sleep, sleep then eat. It'd be strange if you didn't get indigestion. Linhua didn't bring up Gu Hanchuan with me again. She just sometimes hesitated to speak and would sigh heavily. Finally, I was the one who couldn't take it anymore. Stop looking so miserable in front of me every day. I haven't even yelled at you for scheming against me with Big Brother yet. Seeing that I had brought it up first, Linhua said, Just tell me, do you like the little guard or not? Are you crazy? I rolled over and changed my position, staring blankly out the window. Dusk locks the deep courtyard. The rain patters on the banana leaves. They are the same person. The imperial physician told me to exercise more, so I practiced some flashy but impractical moves in the courtyard. Yushu came again, holding a stack of letters in her hand. She said that Yu Miao said that Gu Hanchuan has been frequently corresponding with his brother Yu Miao all these years, some of which were about me, and Yu Miao had her bring them to me. I politely accepted it and politely saw her off. Returning to the room, I put the stack of letters on the table, quietly looked at them for a long time, before mustering the courage to pick one up and open it to read. Though mischievous and unruly, her candid nature greatly delights my heart. I hope for the day she is grown, wish to take her as my wife, and cherish her as a precious pearl. My heart already belongs to another, and for that reason, I am breaking off the engagement. I hope for your understanding and forgiveness, elder brother. I also pray that Sister Yushu will find a worthy husband, that they may grow old together, their blessings long and abundant. She actually schemed for my sake, getting involved in dealings with villains, and was almost bullied. I was angry that she acted on her own, fearing she would endanger herself. I'm afraid I have frightened her, and I deeply regret it. I will take your admonishment to heart, elder brother. I will reflect on this deeply, and will be sure to cherish and treasure her from now on. Recently, I received a letter from my younger sister, saying she has fully recovered and is lively again, which greatly comforts my heart. Because I have been demoted and banished, I feared she would be implicated, so I did not dare to send a letter to comfort her. I only wish to atone for my mistakes with good deeds, return to the capital as soon as possible, and apologize to her in person. Today, a letter from home arrived, saying she is to marry another. My heart feels like it is being twisted by a knife, and I cannot let it go. I lay on the bed and cried for a long time, cried until I was dizzy and my head throbbed, cried until my eyes blurred, cried until I felt like I was about to stop breathing, cried until I felt like I couldn't live anymore. Then I left the bedroom and went to sit by the small pond in the courtyard. A gust of wind blew, and it seemed there was someone over by the rockery. I turned my head to look, and sure enough, there was a figure behind the rockery. The moonlight cast his shadow. I stood up in a panic, although I had already guessed who it was. I still asked, "Who is there?" That person didn't come out immediately, but instead replied to me, "Whoever you want me to be, that is who I am." I didn't say anything at that moment, not knowing how to respond. The two of us stood quietly in the garden, separated by the rockery, unable to see each other. A moment later, I mustered up the courage to call out to him, "Big brother." I turned my head towards the pond, chose my words for a moment, and continued, "It is so late. Why did you come over?" As soon as the words left my mouth, I secretly praised myself in my heart. My ability to play dumb is also top-notch. Gu Hanchuan finally walked out from behind the rockery. As he walked closer step by step, my heart also beat faster and faster. Until he got close, I kept staring at the pond, not daring to look at him. A few days ago, Princess Wan Yao sent a message to Lin Hua, saying the emperor intended to betroth her to me, so I rushed back to the capital. Oh, I twisted the silk ribbon at my waist. Then it didn't go through, right? That day when I asked you to wait for me in the room, it was to go to the palace to request an imperial edict. I suddenly interrupted him, mustering up the courage to turn and face him. "Big brother, you definitely don't mind that I've been married before, right?" I looked at him expectantly. He stared at me with a profound gaze, seemingly filled with endless longing and deep love. He didn't speak, and I felt a bit insecure, as if a small drum was beating in my heart. Although my two hands were my own, I didn't know where to put them. One moment fiddling with my fingers, the next putting them behind my back. He pulled my hand from behind my back and held it tightly in his palm. "I'm no gentleman. I was secretly glad you married the wrong person, and even when you were fooling around wanting a child, I actually thought it was an opportunity I could take advantage of. To my Wanwan, how would I dare to dislike you?" His words were considerate and moving, warming my heart. It was as if a warm current surged from my heart, flowing throughout my body, making all my limbs feel warm and cozy. But he just had to bring up the sore subject. I still held a bit of a grudge in my heart, and couldn't help but pout. "In the end, it was you and Lin Hua, with your deep brother-sister bond, and also Princess Wan Yao, ganging up to plot against me." Gu Hanchuan looked slightly guilty, and seemed to be trying to give an apologetic smile. "You forgot that you also took Choir away from the Duke Dingguo's residence." I was so angry I flung his hand away. "You guys are so annoying." "Gu Hanchuan, as if afraid I would disappear, quickly hugged me. "Little sister, don't be angry. Older brother will definitely be honest with you from now on and won't plot anymore." My whole body was held in his arms, unable to move. Hearing him say such pleading words, my heart quivered, and I could barely stand. His chest was warm, his embrace powerful. I couldn't help but think of those nights of passionate lovemaking. I would never have imagined in a million years that the person who was so considerate, meticulous, and doting in bed was actually this profound and gloomy, jade-faced King Yama, like older brother of mine. Gu Hanchuan saw that I was silent and seemed to get a little anxious, holding me even tighter. "Wanwan, if you're really that upset, then I won't be Gu Hanchuan anymore. I'll just be your little guard for the rest of my life, even if you only allow me to come at night. Just don't ignore me. Don't make me leave." "No, don't," I said evasively. He cupped my face to look at me. His eyes were actually filled with pleading. "If you keep sneaking around with me like this forever, my dad would kill me. My great-aunt definitely wouldn't be happy either. And then there is Lin Hua. Wouldn't she just strangle me?" A glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes. "My dear sister, since that is the case, why don't you take some pity on me and give your big brother a proper status? How about it?" I felt like I'd been struck by lightning, this person in front of me. No matter how wild a tale I spun, no one would ever believe he could say such a thing. It wasn't that he was possessed by a fox spirit. I was the one who was completely mesmerized, and I couldn't help but touch his cheek, murmuring, "But this is so absurd." His warm breath brushed against the corner of my lips. "You're the one who wrote this absurd play, so your big brother will play along with you." Ife Shisen, my dad came to get me. I got the news, and when I walked to the entrance of the hall, my dad was talking with Gu Hanchuan, saying he was going to take me home. "You've kept my girl imprisoned in your residence. Are you planning to take her as a concubine, or to order her around as a servant?" Gu Hanchuan knelt on the ground with a thud. "Uncle, I want to marry Wanwan." My dad leaned closer to him and said, "If you want to marry her, you should come to my home to propose, right? Although I'm a businessman, I'm also a reputable imperial merchant. What is this situation supposed to be?" Ji Hanchuan straightened up, his face showing joy. "Uncle, you've agreed? You're a great general. You can't just get married without a sound." Ju Hanchuan kowtowed, hitting his head on the ground, and declared in a loud, clear voice, "Hanchuan will definitely follow the 3 letters and 6 rites. Use an 8-bearer palanquin and provide a 10-lead dowry procession. On the wedding day, banners fluttered and drums and music sounded in unison. Gu Hanchuan rode a tall, fine horse, wearing a bright red brocade robe, a gold-threaded jade belt around his waist, and a gem-inlaid purple-gold crown on his head. I sat in a lavishly decorated bridal sedan, escorted by a group of wedding matrons and maids. The sedan was adorned all around with fresh flowers and colorful ribbons, which swayed gently as the procession moved, releasing waves of fragrance. The grand ceremonial procession moved along Yuxiang Avenue, with banners fluttering and drums and music sounding in unison. The path-clearing officer held a bronze gong, striking it loudly, the sound resonant and majestic, clearing the way for the procession. The honor guard followed close behind. I excitedly lifted the curtain of the bridal sedan to look at the lively scene outside. Queer hurriedly put down the curtain. "Io, my lady, today is your wedding day. You should stop watching the commotion." Suddenly someone on the street shouted, "Isn't this bride the little girl who was caught by General Gu the other day? Is this a wedding crashing this time? You're not filing a complaint anymore." Ha ha. The people nearby also followed along and burst into loud laughter. I lifted the curtain, pointed at him, and cursed. "Kid, I'll remember you, Kier. Pelt him for me." Kier took out her pouch, grabbed the copper coins, and threw them at that person. For a moment, on Yuxiang Avenue, copper coins rained down from the sky. There were cheers and laughter. Everything was festive and joyous. Gu Hanchuan, riding his horse, looked back at me, a smile in his eyes, like a poem, like a painting. After messing around all day, I'm dead tired. I took off the veil and was dozing off by the bedside. In a daze, I heard some movement, so I quickly grabbed the veil to put it over my head. The veil was crooked, but the person had already pushed the door open and come in. I didn't dare to move again, just watching as the red hem of a garment got closer and closer to me, finally stopping at my feet. Are you Wanwan? What a question. Could I be anyone else? But never mind. Big Brother hasn't been very normal lately. It is me, Big Brother, I answered honestly. The bridal veil was lifted. I lowered my head and pursed my lips to hold back a laugh, not even daring to look at him. Gu Hanchuan lifted my chin. I awkwardly met his gaze and chuckled. Big Brother. His eyes were glistening, showing a hint of drunkenness and endless anticipation. Say it again. Say it again. I instantly understood what he meant, and my face immediately grew hot. Don't be like this. I shied away from him, lowered my head to cover my face, and started to giggle foolishly. He pulled me over, cupped my face, his gaze gentle, waiting with a persistent expression for that form of address. I tilted my face up, looking at him with a wry smile. Big Brother, please spare me. I really can't bring myself to say it. Gu Hanchuan lowered his head and gently kissed my lips. You don't dare. End of story. Epilogue. In the days that followed, I was still the same Shen Qingwan who stirred up trouble on Yuxiang Avenue, except now there was someone to keep me in check. Whenever Jiu Hanchuan saw me messing around, he would always sigh helplessly and then clean up my messes for me. Linhua had her second child, another daughter. I had another golden abacus made and sent it over, and it was still unappreciated. Suning later married a scholar. I heard they were deeply in love, living in perfect harmony. After I beat up Mu Yanji at the Nanfeng Hall, it is said he turned over a new leaf, married an official's daughter, and went on to live properly as an upright scholar. As for the child in my belly, that spring, I finally gave birth to a fair and chubby little boy. Gu Hanchuan held the child, his gaze overflowing with tenderness. Wanwan, give our son a name. I thought for a moment and said with a laugh, how about abacus? Ju Hanchuan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. No. Then how about copper coin? No, silver, Shen Qingwan. I burst out laughing and threw myself into his arms. All right, I'll listen to you, I'll listen to you. He held me and said in a low voice, You're truly my fated tribulation. I looked up at him, blinking. Then do you regret it? He lowered his head and kissed me. No regrets in this life. Outside the window, the spring scenery was perfect, the apricot blossoms like snow. Our story, in this world of flourishing blossoms, has written its most perfect ending. The end.